We live in a society right now, things have changed so drastically. I mean, since I was a child up until now, I can see this massive shift and massive change in how people treat each other. People are not as kind, people are not as patient. People are so quick to, when someone makes a mistake or does something wrong, they're so quick to push them aside and move on to somebody else. Welcome, everyone, to episode number 5 of the ROR Factor. Today, we're going to talk about how to rebuild relationships. We're going to give you some strategies and some tactics to strengthen and restore the relationships that you have. I've gotten a lot of questions about, Christopher, I buy into the fact, well, people say I buy into the fact of building relationships and looking for new relationships and how important that is. But I've gotten a lot of questions about, how do I rebuild relationships? Or how do I take a relationship that I had in the past, but have not invested like I should, or I've let that relationship kind of go, or I've let that connection go? And sometimes that happens just purely because of the fact that we're busy and we have a lot going on. And sometimes we take our eye off the ball on certain things that we should be working on. And so in the ROR method, one of the things that I teach my students is to divide their contacts into 3 categories. And that's categories A, B, and C, to keep it really simple. We're going to go into this later in a future podcast, but your A category stands for your avatar. This is people that are in your circle of influence, or people that you need to get access to. If you had access to that audience, you would be able to sell your products and services to those people. So contacts in your life, keep them in a category called A, and that stands for avatar. So those are contacts, people that you have a relationship with, and those people have more of the people that you want to speak to that have your avatar. Now, your B category is bigs, and this stands for people that you want to build a relationship with, or you want to connect with, build a friendship with, and they're big influencers. They're big A-lister contacts. These are people that have massive audiences, massive connections. And if you had a relationship with them, it would literally blow the doors of opportunity off for your business because of the collaborations and things you can do for them and the help that you can receive for them. So that's putting your contacts, A for avatar, B for bigs. And the last one is C. Now, the reason I'm going through all of these, because that is where the rebuilding sometimes, actually, most of the time usually happens. So C stands for contacts. So you've got A for avatar, B for bigs, C for contacts. And so that's how you take all the people in your circle of influence, all of your contacts. That's how you categorize them into these 3 categories. Now, C is everyone that you have a relationship with, that if you could text them, if you could message them, if you could email them, if you could call them, if you did some type of correspondence with them and they would get back to you within a 24-hour period, that's somebody that qualifies to be a C. Now, in these 3 categories, you want to spend time on all 3 of them. You want to spend time on finding people that have more of your customers. So if you had access to their audience, that would be big for your business and what you're doing. You want to concentrate on bigs, because relationships with key influencers, people that are at where you want to be, that will help you get to where they're at, super important. But the place that you make your money, the place that you make the increase in your life and in your business, is your C's. And so your A's and your B's feed over into your C's. All 3 of these need time. But in that C category, that is where I'm guilty, and a lot of us are guilty, of not spending the time like you do in your A's and B's. We're constantly focused on new relationships and going after bigs and going after A's, going after people that have your audience and your avatar. But where you make the needle move in your life and in your business, where you make your money, is in that C category. Because those are people that you have a solid, concrete relationship with, those that you can reach out to, you can ask for help, you can collaborate, you can join your products together, you can ask to interview them on your podcast, you want them to interview you on their podcast. All the opportunities are in that C category. But sometimes we get so focused on the A's and the B's, we forget about the C's. And you want to constantly be nurturing those C's. I have people that are in my C category, and I'm constantly, always reaching out to them. And, there's a lot of different ways that you can do that reaching out. And I'm going to give you a couple little tips and tricks that you can do for that. So one of the things I want to point out is we live in a society right now. Things have changed so drastically. I mean, since I was a child up until now, I can see this massive shift and massive change in how people treat each other. People are not as kind. People are not as patient. People are so quick to, when someone makes a mistake or does something wrong, they're so quick to push them aside and move on to somebody else. And so, with all those changes that we've had, sometimes as we go along this business journey, life journey, entrepreneurial journey, sometimes there's going to be somebody along that path that's in your C category that maybe has done something or maybe has offended you or maybe let you down, or the same thing as well. Maybe there's something you've done that maybe has upset someone else, or maybe there's something that you've not done, or in a way that you've let someone down, and when they were relying upon you. And so one of the things I want to talk about is ways to rebuild those relationships. And it's super important. Sometimes it's a lot easier to strengthen and rebuild a relationship with someone that you have in those C contacts than going out and reaching out for, an avatar or a B, a new contact in that A or B category. And so I remember I was thinking about this topic and people asking me about, well, how do I rebuild? And the first thing is you just have to remember that there's a human factor, and that always plays into effect of that friendship and that relationship. And what I mean by that human factor is people are wired to give someone another chance or another opportunity. People are wired that if you make an effort, if you reach out, 9 times out of 10, they're going to accept that because of that humanness of them, that they know that they make mistakes. They know that they let people down, and they know that they're not perfect. Now, if you're dealing with someone that's the opposite of all that, I highly recommend that maybe that's not someone that you want to associate with, because that's a really difficult and one-sided relationship. But the human factor is people all know that they're not perfect and they make mistakes. So it's how you show up again in their lives is what's key. Now, if you show up in their life and come back in and try and rebuild that relationship, and you need something right away, that's something that you definitely don't want to do, because that person is like, well, they're just rebuilding or they're reconnecting because they need something. And in the relationship building process and everything we teach with the ROR method and return on relationship, that the best thing in the world is to be able to connect, reach out to someone, make an effort, build a relationship, take the initiative, but not expecting anything in return. And then later, after you have a relationship, that is the time of when you can go for the ask them for their help or talk about something that you want to do. And a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I served a mission for my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And it was a 2-year mission. I was 19 years old at the time, and I served in Southern California, outside of LA, wonderful area, and spent a lot of time up in the high desert. And I'd been out in my mission for, I don't think I'd been out a year, and I was given a companion. So in your mission, you have 2 people that you serve together. And so you have a missionary companion that you go serve with. And these are people that you don't know, you've never met before, and the complete strangers. And you're put together in this companionship where you stay in the same apartment, you eat your meals together, you go everywhere together, you stay together all the time. And so you can imagine that if you didn't get along with this person, or this person is a lot different than you, that would be a real struggle. And so one of the things I want to touch on is something that you can do. For those of you that have asked me, and those of you that are listening to this and you're watching this, you think, okay, there's someone I need to rebuild a relationship with, or there's someone that's done something to upset me. Or now, let me say this: if someone's harming you or causing bad things like that, then you want to stay away from that person. But if someone's just done a simple thing, maybe rub you the wrong way or maybe let you down, here's this story that I'm telling you about when I was on my mission. I was serving with this young man, and actually he was older than me, and I was 19 at the time, and he was, I think, 25. So I was younger. And in missionary companionships, someone that's been out in their mission the longest is the senior companion, the older companion of the companionship of two. And so the senior companion, leads a little bit more about what we're going to do and where we're going to go and the schedule that we have. And, you're just the senior companion. So it was a little hard, I think, number one, for this person, because they were 6 years older than me. And it's like, why am I going to take instruction or training from this younger person? And so we would alternate. One day a week, you had a day that you could get your laundry done and go shopping and have a little bit of fun, maybe play some basketball, do some type of athletics, or just do something fun that was in the rules of the mission that you're in. So that particular Monday, it was my companion's turn to choose what it is. No, it was my turn to choose what we were going to do that day. And so we were going to get our laundry done in the morning. We were going to go to this church building, and we were going to play basketball. And kind of getting our things done in the morning. We're getting ready to go over, and my companion came to me and said, "You know what? I don't go play basketball. I just want to stay here all day. I don't want to go." And I'm like, "But it's my day to choose what it is that we were going to do, and we're all going to play basketball." Well, I don't want to do it. I was not happy. I was upset about that. Wasn't crazy about the fact that, hey, it's my day. This is my turn to choose, and you're just saying we're not going to do it. We're going to do what you want to do. So I thought of, what should I do? Now, previously, the day before, I was really good at shining shoes. Like, I was a shining shoes wizard. All the missionaries would like, "Hey, you got to show me how to shine my shoes. Your shoes look amazing. How do you do that?" And so I had all these little tips and tricks and skills to shine up your shoes and make them look really nice. So I had promised that I was going to shine the shoes of my companion, and I hadn't done it yet. So I'm out in the other room. He's in the bedroom, and I said, "You know what? I'm not going to make a big deal about this. I'm going to serve him. I'm going to do something for him that I promised I said I would do, and not do it because I'm upset now, or because he's doing something that I don't agree with, or he's hurting me, and not doing, not keeping with our agreement." So instead of getting upset, I said, "I'm going to show up and I'm going to serve him." So I went into the room and went into the closet, and I got both pairs of his shoes that I promised I would shine. And I went out into the other room, and I proceeded to do my magic Jedi skill tricks on shining shoes, and was working on his shoes. And so I got to the last pair, I think it was, and he had come out and he had said, "Hey, you know what? I'm sorry. It is your day to choose. Let's go." And so we got ready and we got in the car and we went. And so that experience always sticks into my mind, because anytime I get into a situation where someone's offended me, or they've done something that I didn't agree with or let me down, one of the things I always thought was, I think of shine the shoes, shine the shoes. And my wife is amazing at reminding me of this and reminding me of a lot of things. And there's been multiple experiences in my life where I've come into these problems where I either need to rebuild, or someone has done something to damage a relationship with me. And my wife says, "Shine their shoes, shine their shoes." And so, one of the best ways that you can rebuild a relationship with an individual, whether that be in your business life or in your personal life, is by serving them, doing something for them, show gratitude, let them know that you care about them. They say people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And there's so much truth to that. I talked about that human factor. People are wired within their DNA to reciprocate. It's part of their DNA to return a favor. Now, if they don't, these are people, like I said, that you might want to stay away from, because they're very self-centered and all they care about is themselves. And those are people that you don't want to have a relationship with. I'll tell you that right now. There is a non-negotiable for me And I don't want to deal or associate with people like that. It doesn't matter how much gain or benefit there could be down the road, it's not worth it. And so if you serve them, if you care for them, if you show up, and that's the big one, building relationships is all, how you show up in their life sets the tone for everything. How you show up in their life after there's been a separation of contact, after there's been a period of time where you haven't had that connection. And whether that just be you're busy and you haven't had that time to connect, or someone in the relationship has done something to disrupt it. Whatever side of the fence that you're on, if you serve them, if you do something for them, it will make huge repairs to that relationship. In the beginning, I talked about that A, B's, and C's and how much you want to spend time in that C category. One of the things that you can do so you don't have to do the rebuilding is constantly have contact. And those of you who are listening that know me, that have a relationship with me, know that on holidays, every other month, I send personal text messages out all the time to the people in my C category. Sometimes it's the text message, sometimes it's the DM. It depends on how I communicate with them. But I try hard as much as I can to stay in constant contact with the people that are in my C category, that I've spent the time to cultivate a relationship, to build a relationship, and to strengthen it. So if you spend time with the people that you've gotten that relationship to the point where you have rapport and you have a friendship, pour a little bit into that, spend a little time in that. And if you do that, you never will have to rebuild as a result of that. Now, if there's damage for some reason, there's rebuilding that has to be done. Stephen Covey says, I love his quote about begin with the end in mind. And the other quote that I love is seek first to understand, then to be understood. As you begin reconnecting with these people, as you begin to rebuild, begin with the end in mind. What is the end? The end is a friendship. The end's an opportunity. The end is someone that's going to show up in your life at a period of time that you need it, and you don't know when that is someday. Same thing happened for me. I've talked about this in the podcast before, that you don't know when that person's going to be a key component to something that's going on in your life, and they're going to show up at the right time. But they can't show up if you don't have a relationship with them. If they don't know who you are, you don't know who they are, that showing up is not going to happen. So Covey also said, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Try as hard as you can, as difficult as it is, has it been for me many times, to understand that there's a reason why that person's acting that way. There may be a reason why that person has not reached out to you. There's a reason why that person maybe did not respond. If you sent someone something, you sent them a note, you sent them a gift, you reached out to them, and they didn't respond back, there's probably a reason why. Because if you had that desire to connect with them, there's a reason for that. But you don't know what's going on the other side. Just like that day, who knows? I don't really know. But something was probably going on that day that had my companion on my mission in a place where he didn't want to go anywhere. And it didn't matter whose day it was. He wasn't interested in going because of the state that he was in. But me going in and shining his shoes was, in a way, seeking first to understand, then to be understood would be going there and say, I did say, hey, today's my day. And he's like, well, I don't care. We're not going. Well, for me to be understood, seek first to understand, then be understood. For me to be understood, go and say, hey, well, this isn't fair. This isn't right. You can't do this. This is my day. We got to do it my day. And he needs to understand how I feel. But maybe, we need to spend time understanding how they feel. What are they going through? Maybe something happened that day. And I had a recent experience about that too. I got a message from someone, and that's the other thing too. In episode 6, we're going to talk about stop DMing your way into people's life. And we're going to talk about the negatives of communicating that way. I got a message from someone and it kind of played off some other messages and I read into it wrong. And so we hopped on a video call and I was right away full charge. See, I'm guilty of this, full charging, horns down saying, why did you send me that? You need to give me a chance to do X, Y, and Z. And the person tried to stop me. And I'm like, no, I want to finish. And finally, I listened. I said, okay, fine. Tell me what's going on. And then I was told. And this person had something significantly going on in their life that gave a really good reason of why I got that message from them and why we weren't going to be able to do what we were going to do, or just why they responded that way to me. And that moment, I did not seek first to understand, then to be understood. I wanted to be understood first before I even tried to seek to understand. And so that's something that's really incredible that you can live by. And I want you to walk away going, when you get into these situations, shine their shoes. And when you have that C category, your contacts, I encourage you to spend the time in that category, just like you spend the time in going after a new avatar, people that have your audience, bigs, great contacts to have. I have some incredible contacts in my big category, and that took time. It took effort. But when you move those A's and B's over into your C's, when you naturally fall into C's, when people just naturally fall into yours, someone maybe approaches you, you want to have a return on relationship. You need to make sure to connect and reach out so that you can have that return. Spend the time. The best way to avoid having to rebuild a relationship is to constantly be building it and pouring into it and making that effort. Sometimes relationships need to stop. Sometimes there needs to be an end. Sometimes, you know what, this just isn't going to work. And I've had those times. But the less of those, the better. Better for your emotional state and just all around better for your journey. So, strategies and tactics for rebuilding: shine their shoes. Reach out to them. Let them know. If you haven't talked to someone for a long period of time, just reach out to them and let them know that you're thinking of them, you care about them, and you hope everything is well. But holy smokes, please do not reach out to someone that you haven't reached out to in a while and ask them to do something. Spend some time. Rebuild a little bit. Make those emotional deposits. I love Stephen Covey a tremendous amount. I've quoted him like twice in this episode, but he talks about making these emotional deposits. Sometimes you need to make some deposits to those contacts and constantly make deposits, because someday you're going to have to do a withdrawal, and you want to be able to have a nice, big, fat relationship account so that you can make those withdrawals. So thank you so much for being here on the ROR Factor. Hopefully some of these things I shared with you today will help you in the rebuilding process. Think of those categories of A, B's, and C's. That's how you categorize your contacts. Understand that growth happens in that C category. So that is where sometimes the rebuilding has to happen. And that's where the nurturing constantly has to happen. Thanks again for being here on the ROR Factor. We'll see you on episode number 6, as we're going to talk about how people need to stop trying to message and DM their way into people's lives, because it just doesn't work. And so thanks again for being here. I'm Mr.Vos, your host of the ROR Factor. Take care, everybody.